And hello, everyone. I'm David DeGuzman. Welcome inside the NBC4 Digital Center for a special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. We're looking back at the Crew season and also looking ahead to what should be a very interesting offseason. There's no shortage of topics to talk about, so we'll get right into it. Of course, can't talk about the Crew without digital producer Orri Benatar. Man, all of this happened while you were like out of town on PTO, but like in the span of, I believe they lost their manager, got a new name for their field, and what else happened?
The whole MLS structure changed
right, that
to its core.
So lesson learned, don't go on PTO again.
I guess not.
Unless you want massive changes to happen to the Crew. I think we should start with the most obvious, and it starts at the top. So as of right now, we do not know who will be taking over the Crew, but let's focus on what the Crew misses from Wilfried Nancy leaving, taking over at, is it Celtic or Celtic? Because
Celtic. It's Celtic.
This is what happens when you're in Central Ohio and you have one of the Dublin schools here. They go by the Celtics, but you're used to the Boston Celtics, and it's like, okay. But Celtic FC has a great guy. He was great to us for 3 years. He really did change the trajectory of this franchise.
For sure. You know, Wilfried Nancy certainly is one of the most impactful managers the Crew's ever had. The only other one I think that had similar impact is Siggy Schmidt, helping win that first cup in 2008. Rest in peace, of course. But Wilfried Nancy, the style of play that he brought, the individualism he brought, the personality. He's a very philosophical guy. He said things in such a beautiful way. The fans really connected with him, and people are really going to miss him here. So to me, the thing I'm curious about the most, whoever does step in as the new manager, what do the tactics look like? Do they try and keep that same style that these Crew players have been used to for the past few years under Nancy, or is it a totally new philosophy of tactics? So, for example, a player I'm looking at is Max Arfston. Is he still going to play in that advanced wingback role that he's played with for Nancy and now for the U.S. national team under Pochettino? Or if a new manager comes in and they have a totally new philosophical tactical style, does he play as a left back? Does he play as a holding mid? Does he play more advanced? Who knows? So that's really the biggest question we have to see. But losing Nancy, especially after losing Cucho and Ramirez and all these players in 2025, it's been a difficult year for the Crew.
It was an interesting year for the Crew, for sure. I think when you look back at this year, it was a transitional year in many ways. You lose guys like you just mentioned, like Cucho, like a Christian Ramirez, and you saw guys step up. You know, you saw Max Arfston definitely find his footing in many ways. You saw a guy like Diego Rossi really become kind of the lead guy when it comes to finding ways to get on the board, score points, come up with assists. Those two, I think, are the front guys. The Crew also added some key figures as well that had different results as we went through season 2025. What do you think of the Crew and how they were able to deal with a lot of obstacles, especially with a lot of injuries at a key time of the season?
Well, they weren't able to deal with it very well because the results speak for themselves. You know, they ended the year winning only 2 of their last 10 games. Of course, Abu Ali getting injured basically as soon as he was signed didn't help either because they had been searching for a striker this whole time. They get their striker, and then he can barely play. So having Abu Ali for 2026 is essentially like a new signing. But then, of course, Lassi Lapalainen was a new signing. He's a versatile player. That didn't really work out. He's not going to come back. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting how they're going to rebuild this roster and try to restructure it in a certain way that caters to the manager. The other thing that's going to be fascinating, if you look at the roster here, I included nationalities. Nancy, of course, was going for – he signed a lot of French players, signed a lot of French-speaking players, French internationals. How does that affect the team without having Nancy's staff there, which was, all French-speaking managers, French-speaking coaches? He brought that flair into the team. How does a new boss potentially change that? But again, you still have plenty of guys on this roster who are MLS Cup winners. Schulte, you got Arfston, you got Moreira still. Replacing Nagbe is impossible. No one is ever going to replace Darlington Nagbe, but that's a huge hole in the midfield you have to fill. And I still think you need to add another attacker. Specifically, I think a number 9 that can add a different way of playing than Abu Ali can, because Abu Ali is a very big physical guy, good with his feet, but not Cucho level. So I think you need to find maybe a smaller number 9 that can help create chances as well, like Cucho did. I think that's what's missing for the Crew. The other biggest thing that didn't materialize as well as it could have was Gazdag. I think people thought that Gazdag would be way more impactful when he was signed. So obviously Crew fans are hoping he will be more impactful in 2026.
I thought Jason Russell-Rowe did a phenomenal job this season. I think he's kind of one of the dark horses that he wasn't stealing headlines per se, but he was doing so much of the little things that you don't really get to notice. And then, of course, ending up scoring goals a lot towards the end. He really surprised a lot of us in the very beginning. I think he had a bit of a lull, but I think he also saw his confidence kind of rise, and he really found himself towards the end there. So I'm looking forward to seeing him going into 2026. You mentioned Darlington Nagbe, and we're going to hear from him in just a bit, but who do you think on this roster kind of tries to step into that role of a captain and a leader? I think one of the names that for me kind of comes up is a Sean Zawatsky in terms of he's a guy who's very well spoken, and he's kind of all over the place, literally on the field when he is playing. And he's a smart guy too, a young guy that I think we can see him have a long career with the Crew if he chooses to.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because who that new captain is a bit of a mystery. I think Arfston is certainly someone that comes to mind, because the other thing to think about for 2026, think of how many of these players are going to go out there and do whatever it takes to play well, not just for the black and gold, but for a spot to play in the World Cup, which is a huge deal for all these guys on teams that have qualified. Some of them will play in the World Cup for sure, but then Arfston, for example, likely on the roster, but maybe not necessarily a guarantee. Zawatsky is another name. He probably is fighting more for a roster spot for the U.S. in the World Cup than Arfston is. So I can see Sean trying to take a more of a leadership role that can potentially help him get a spot for the U.S. in a World Cup. I mean, I think Diego Rossi's a candidate to be a captain too. He's an MLS vet. He's the top scorer for the team. So that comes to mind as a possibility. Someone who will not play as much, but certainly will be a leadership presence is Evan Bush, just because how long he's been there. He's an Ohio guy. We've obviously had him with Channel 4 for a couple of appearances on this digital center and on television. So
great guy too.
He's a great guy.
I ran into him at German Village's Village Lights the other day. Just super approachable and just super great to talk to. He's definitely a voice in that.
Totally. And he'll be a voice. He'll be a great leader. And you don't always need to have leaders play on the field. If you can have leaders who maybe don't get as much time, but who the manager is and then who the captain is, those are two big holes you got to fill.
One quick one before we go to our first break. I was going to ask you about Scott's Miracle-Gro Field. Do you like that right now? Have you gotten used to saying it? The
SMG Field.
SMG.
I have to start getting used to it. What's crazy is when Lower.com Field was first announced,
that would have been weird for anyone.
I thought to myself, wow, this is really strange. I've never heard them just use a web address for a stadium name.
After a while.
But then it started clicking. Scott's Miracle-Gro will certainly click. I'm sure people will shorten it to Scott's Field because that's easier to say. I just think it's cool now that in downtown Columbus you have Scott's Miracle-Gro Field, a local company, Nationwide Arena, a local company, and Huntington Park. Yeah. So it's nice to have that local flavor in town for our professional teams. So Lower.com was also local, but maybe not as well known as Scott's Miracle-Gro because it's grass. Yeah. We know how to do grass very well here.
Yeah, ask Joe Nugent about grass. He loves talking about surface of fields, of playing fields. My last quick question for you. Issa Tall has pun intended, a tall order going into the offseason. But in terms of roster changes, what's at the top of the list? What's the biggest need?
That's difficult because they have positions that are there, but I think the obvious answer is you need a new central midfielder to replace Darlington Nagbe.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will hear from Darlington Nagbe. We sat down with him on the day that his retirement was celebrated, a one-on-one discussion with him about life that was with the Crew and what's ahead for the now retired former Crew captain. We're back here on NBC4 Sports Extra, the special edition looking back at the Crew 2025 season. And one of the biggest headlines was the retirement of Darlington Nagbe, a guy who spent so much of his life in MLS soccer, including a significant portion in Columbus, winning 2 MLS Cup titles, as well as a Leagues Cup title in 2024. But also will be remembered as one of the major voices in that locker room for the Crew. We sat down with him one-on-one on the day that the club celebrated his retirement, and we caught up with him about what life is like now and what's ahead for him now that he's retired. Darlington, how have the last few weeks been, your first few weeks of retirement?
It's been good. To be honest, I don't think it's hit me yet. And I think just because it's playoffs and a lot of teams are home. There's only 2 teams left, so I don't think it's really hit me yet. But so far, it's been good. Enjoying family time.
Have you processed the emotions from the last few games that you were able to play, from the final game at Cincinnati to your final home game here? I mean, so much emotion. You spent so much time on the field and in the stands with the fans. Have you been able to process what that was like?
A little bit, but not fully. I think right now I just feel just a bunch of gratitude. Thinking about that last regular season game here at home and everything that played out, the fans and the club and how they supported me throughout that game and my family. And I think for me also the Cincinnati series. What a series. Playing those type of games is what I enjoyed. High competition, rivalry games. So for me, obviously it ended the way we wanted it to end, but I was glad just to be a part of those games.
This is a big day for you. It's all about you, but I know you're kind of one of the most humble people that I've ever met. How do you sum up a career that's seen so many highs and lows, particularly here in Columbus?
It's tough. It's tough being here 6 seasons. I've had a lot of teammates come and go, different coaches, but I think just the relationships that I built over time, not just with the players and the coaching staff, but just everyone that makes this machine work on a daily basis, So I think for me is I'm leaving the game, but I'm also leaving those relationships, which I cherish more. So definitely be weird, but looking forward to just seeing everyone and still keeping in touch.
When did you get that inkling that this was going to be your final ride?
I'll probably say in the summer. Summer's always a grind. That's when it's hot and you're playing and just the heat and traveling and all this. So probably summertime. Traveling and my kids were home and we were going to away games, and I think that's when it hit me where I just wanted to be home and spend more time with my family.
So what was it like when you walked into Issa Tall's office or talked to Wilfried Nancy and you're like, you know what, I think this is my last one?
I don't go up there too often to talk to them. I think when I came up and I tried to set up a meeting with them, I think they kind of understood what was coming, even though they probably didn't want to hear it. But no, I'm just thankful for them. I used to try to change my mind, a couple of times, but I think Wilfried just understood, him knowing me as a person and what I explained to him with my children and my wife. I think he didn't try to change my mind.
The resume is pretty impressive. 4 MLS Cups. You've had a lot of success here. Obviously, one of those MLS Cups here, and winning the Leagues Cup as well. But what are you going to remember the most about being part of the Columbus Crew?
What I remember the most is just playing for the Crew. I don't think there's any specific moment besides 2023 MLS Cup, but I grew up in Cleveland, so getting a chance to represent this team, to be a captain for the team and to go out here and have a bunch of friends and family root for me and cheer for me and be able to make that drive down, I'll remember everything. But I definitely say that 2023 MLS Cup run.
Yeah, speaking of cheering, I mean, this fan base is rabid. What's it been like? What's it meant to you to have the fan base have, their support, spending so much time in the stands in your final few games? That must have said a lot about how much the fan base meant to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think since we moved here, they've accepted me and welcomed me, not just me, but my family and friends as well. And we've made a bunch of new friends. And my kids are old enough now where they have friends that come to the game. So being able to be a part of, youth soccer community and turning parents into fans of the team and of myself has been special. So whenever I go in the stands, it's kids and people that I've met while I've been here in Columbus. So that's always a special feeling.
Can you tell me what some of the conversations were like with some of your teammates? Either advice that you were giving them or maybe even things that you learned from them. I mean, what was it like those last few games and talking with your teammates in the locker room and kind of sharing memories and just knowing that was going to be your last few games in that locker room?
I don't think a lot of them believed me, honestly, when I told them. I don't know when they believed me, maybe after the last regular season game. I think when we had the celebrations, I think that's when they finally believed me. I think they thought I would just maybe say it and I would still come back and play another season. But no, I just thank them. Obviously, what I love most about this sport is you have guys from all around the world. So getting the chance to get to know them and build those relationships and seeing what they overcame to get to where they are, I think that's been some of the most special conversations I've had, and I've grown the most just from getting to know people and understanding their path.
As we look toward the future, what's the legacy that you hope you've left behind here? You spend so much time here, so much time invested, so much advice you've given to other players. What do you hope that the future players of the Crew will take away from what you've done here?
No, I hope, I learn a lot from watching and observing, and I sometimes not always the most vocal person, but I hope that I was able to, be some sort of guidance, and hopefully they watch and see how I put the team first, put my teammates first, and I always kept the club goal of winning championships ahead of my personal goal. So I hope that they get to see that and realize that the better the team does, the better the group does. I think the more you see individual success.
Your outlook on the future first, about the team. I mean, obviously you're probably still going to be rooting on the Crew from afar. What do you think is in the future for this club?
No, I just continue doing what they've been doing. Obviously winning in 2020, winning in 2023, and the other trophies that that have been lifted. The coaches that they've had, the players that they've had come in. I think it's just on the up and up. I think especially, we get the stadium here and training facilities. So soccer's growing in Columbus, and it's definitely a good place to be.
All right, how about you? I mean, you've a couple of weeks already into your retirement. You've said that you still haven't really processed it. I mean, I guess first, what's daily life been like now that you're not, training to be back here next season? What's that been like?
Still working out a bit. I enjoy working out more, I should say. It's just calming, as opposed to always competing, working out to reach a certain time and to achieve a certain objective. It's just been free. Mentally, I think I've been at peace. I spend so much time with my wife, joining her on her daily walks and her workouts, and getting to spend more time with her when the kids are at school. And then, she's my everything. She's been with me since before this started. So we really get a chance to put each other first through these moments, and then enjoy the kids when they get home.
Were you like, this is what you do when I'm gone? Was it kind of eye-opening for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay out the way. I'm trying to stay out the way and just help her with whatever she needs. I think I can't just stop knowing that I'm home a lot and just disrupt her routine. So I just try to stay out the way, help her out whatever she needs.
Any big plans for you? I mean, either taking some vacations somewhere soon, you're gonna do a little bit of traveling. I mean, what's in the plans? Whatever you want to go with.
We haven't talked about that too much.
Okay.
I think we've just been going day by day. What we have talked about is I'm trying to convince my wife to go watch some World Cup games. But I don't know if she's going to want to travel to watch more soccer. She's watched enough soccer the last 15 years. So
maybe delve into some other sports.
Yeah, some other sports. I join a softball league or something. My kids play baseball, so I might try to get into that.
Yeah, it sounds like soccer, though, will always be a part of your life. Any plans or even just maybe dreams of anything you want to do to kind of stay with the sport? I mean, you kind of know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Front office, broadcasting. I mean, have those thoughts just even crossed your mind?
Yeah, they have, but it's all over the place, so it's hard to pinpoint one thing that I definitely want to do, but definitely still being in touch with the club and being part of the club and the community, that'll definitely happen.
One last thing, when you walk back in here, you look at the field, just what thoughts go through your mind knowing that you have made an impact here?
No, it's special. I mean, this wasn't built when I got here, so to see that whole process of this getting built and the fan base growing and the training facility, the trophies being lifted, is just surreal. It's hard to believe at times. I just look at it and I think back, and like I said, all I can feel is gratitude and thankful that I was able to come here and be a part of this and help this team and this club grow.
I'm sure there will always be a seat for you somewhere.
Yeah.
If you ever want to come back and visit, I'm sure they can figure that out. Darlington Nagbe, congratulations on your retirement, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, when we come back, we'll bring Orri Benatar back in. We're going to talk about the future of the Crew as well as the scheduling change that is to come that will affect all of North American soccer. That's next on the special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. All We're back here in NBC4 Sports Extra special edition, talking about the Crew and the future of the club, as well as a interesting change about to happen in MLS starting in 2027. So we've kind of been feeling that this was the future for quite some time, but it's still going to be seismic once it does happen. Basically, 2026 is the last normal year of what we knew it for MLS scheduling. This is going to be huge, Orri.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
There you are.
It's barely a normal year in 2026 because they're going to take a month off for the World Cup. Not even, it's like a month and a half off for the World Cup. But yeah, 2026 is going to be the last year in Major League Soccer where you start in February and you end in December, and then they're changing and joining the rest of Europe in 2027.
I mean, if you want to be considered one of the top leagues in the world,
coming.
This was probably necessary. What does this do to, I guess, how does it impact, I mean, obviously all of the MLS clubs, but also when you think about, I mean, you're a manager, you're a general manager, and you're thinking about how I'm going to proceed. I mean, we have all year to talk about it next year, but it's going to change a lot of, the talent pool too that we get. It's just going to be kind of different because you got guys who are kind of spending their off season here, and then it also it kind of aligns in terms of all right, we're lending people and clubs are lending players to us. I mean, this is kind of going to change the dynamic of that, isn't it?
MLS emphasized the most when they announced this calendar structure change, how this will align them with the worldwide transfer market, because in the European leagues, players are available throughout all of January as mid-season acquisitions, and then after the season ends in May, they can start signing players in the summer. This also aligns with all of the international calendar, so gone are the days where MLS players would miss the middle of the season for a World Cup or a Euros or a Gold Cup. But as you can see, of course, next year you have that World Cup break, so it is a little bit of an odd year. Then they're doing this mini season in 2027, which I think is kind of pointless. I don't know why.
Remember the mini season we had during COVID?
MLS is back.
Yeah.
MLS is back tournament. FCC played the Crew at 10 p.m. in Orlando, Florida. That was the first Crew game in 4 months in 2020. That was fun, but
there's going to be an asterisk to whoever wins that.
Totally.
Though.
It's a 14-game regular season. You're playing from February to May. Just to have some soccer in there, I personally think there's no reason to it. You may as well just wait to start the new season until July, which is when they're going to start the 2027-28 season.
It's so long to go without soccer, though.
I know. Now, obviously, the big critique that people have of this new calendar is you're not playing from mid-December to early February, so you're not going to have all these cold weather city teams playing in frigid conditions and snow and all this type of stuff because we're in North America. We have to do that, hence the snowflake pause button in that bar. But then you resume the regular season, and the MLS Cup playoffs going forward, starting in 27-28, are going to align with the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. It's going to all happen in the month of May. The jury is still out on how this will go and what I think about this, because I need to see it happen first, maybe for a couple of seasons before making a judgment. I get where people are coming from with the winter schedule.
And I'm going to miss having stuff to do in the summer. We have that summer lull. Usually in June, July, right after the Memorial. So it's I guess we'll go to Clippers games now.
Yeah, you go to Clippers games, but Crew stuff is going to start in July. But it does help to legitimize MLS in the eyes of UEFA and in the eyes of FIFA. Now they're playing like the Premier League does. You're going to start in the summer and end in the spring.
Ooh, we can cover Crew training camp now.
Yeah, in June. But this, I think that with aligning with the international break, aligning with the transfer window, it's going to help. The real next step as to when it's going to happen, do you add promotion and relegation? That is the potential next step to really increase it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult with 30 teams because the Premier League is only 20 teams.
Yeah.
MLS has 10 more teams, and it's one of the biggest leagues in the world of soccer. So what happens there, how it's going to affect things, it's going to be really fascinating to see, but
a lot to think about.
Let's get through 2026 first. Let's see how this mini season goes. Whatever.
But I appreciate bringing this up because just so many changes, so many seismic changes with MLS and the Crew. Also, by the way, congrats to Inter Miami on their MLS Cup title. Lionel Messi has the one thing he was really
because he
missing.
really needs more. I did see though. There's a possibility he could win his 50th trophy if he repeats the World Cup with Argentina.
I mean, you're setting yourself up for a great storyline. Of course, we'll talk a lot about it in the coming weeks and months as we get ready for the World Cup. But for now, Orri Benatar, appreciate the time. Thanks as always. And that'll do it for this special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. I'm David DeGuzman. Until next time, have a great one.
Thanks for watching. For more NBC4, download the NBC4 streaming app. You'll get free 24/7 local programming streamed straight to your living room. Just search NBC4 Columbus on your Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Roku, or Samsung device.